おはようございます。こんばんは。Sashiko Live をやっていこうと思います。ごめんなさい。英語バージョンです。忘れてました。Thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi, and this is gonna be the live streaming while I do Sashiko stitching and talking about Sashiko. This is gonna be the English one, Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and this is the English version. Just a second. Yep, that's good. All right. I did not bring that much topic today. I will talk about something about um, the word of the spirit in the word. That's one topic that I covered on the Instagram. I will talk about that, I guess, and also I will talk about the videos that I made yesterday or 2 days ago about the 1 minute explanation of the core of Sashiko. I will talk about those 2 or 3, I guess. If you have any questions, not a question, I'm sorry. If you have any request for me to talk about Sashiko, not the technique wise, because this is not the workshop. I don't want to make it like a workshop. If you have any request about me talking about Sashiko while doing Sashiko stitching, please let me know. Leave the comment. I should be able to catch that. After this, I will switch the camera to the actual my hand, and I will be stitching. One last thing, please blink. This I would like to make this time as the place to be together, to stitch together. We call it ibasho in Japanese. So if you could bring some of your stitching project, or even doesn't have to be stitching, like knitting or any kind of project, to spend time together, that'd be really great. There's nothing ongoing on the screen. There's not that much stuff ongoing, so just listen to this as the kind of radio, as well as stitching or knitting, and then if you have any request, please leave the comment. All right, I will switch the camera now. All right. I hope everybody's doing okay in this crazy time. My hands are getting extremely dry, so I hope it doesn't show over the camera. It's kind of nasty for that. There is several things I wanted to talk about. There was an article, not an article, there was some, yeah, I read an article about about the sort of the cultural appropriation, I guess. There was one, I think she was the college girl who used the Japanese word kawaii, cute, kawaii, for her costume or like something. And that became like a big of deal. Some Japanese said that it was the cultural appropriation, and she had to apologize. She apologized on the Instagram saying that she was sorry about using that word. I did not think that there was the cultural appropriation case at all. So it is very still difficult concept, and I have to be very careful when I talk about it. But at the same time, I think the key is the acknowledgement. I keep saying that, but the key is the acknowledgement. So I think that's what we're gonna. If you're careful enough, mindful enough to care or even acknowledge what's going on, I think it's not gonna be as bad as the other Japanese may react to it. Where to get the paper or template? Everything is on my website, on this YouTube or upcyclestitches.com. Either way, you can get the information. For that, I talked about the spirit in word. The Japanese believes in sort of the animism. Japanese believed. I think some Japanese still do, but we believe that things, every matter's element, have the spirit in it. For example, the needles I'm stitching right now, it has the spirit in it. The thimble has it, the fabric has it, thread has it. We do believe that each word has the spirit in it, and each word also has the spirit in it as well. So we have 51 sound of Japanese word. It's like an alphabet, but it's not exactly the same. It's like each character has the sound, and those sound seems to have sort of the meaning, or it's probably not meaning in the definition of Western culture, but more like a spirit that each sound represent. So for example, the first alphabet is A. A means or represents some of the element or spirit, or it has some meaning in it. We can find some meaning in it. For that, Sashiko itself has the meaning or spirit from those spiritual perspective. I mean, we do not have to know what Sashiko really means from the sound. At the same time, Sashiko is really not just the word for some of us. Many Japanese people today, probably they're not really aware of those things. It's quite old. Your question may be like, why do you know that? Well, I had to kind of listen to those stories when I was a child. So as much as I think it's not as much as I think it's kind of BS, I kind of believe that there might be something like that too, something very invisible. So we call it kotodama. Kotodama is the Japanese word for the spirit in the word, or even saying the sound. And sometimes people translate the kotodama as the power of the word. I think it was English book I read, but what we say, what we think becomes the truth, like realistic, real. Napoleon Hill? Probably. But there's a word, there was a kind of saying in English that what we say, what we verbalize is gonna be the truth later on. So be careful when you speak up or say something positive. So that probably lead us to go to the positive thinking. But it's not that. It's not quite that. It's not wrong. It's not different, but it's different from that. So it is not more like, it is not a it's not a willpower, it's not the result-oriented mindset. It's more like the spirit, the existence. It's not a good or bad, or it's not for the result. It's just there is a thing in the word. Therefore, the word matter. Of course, the word matters because of the many other reasons which I have been sharing. So it's not only that, but at the same time, it can be one reason, one story that I would like to share that, it can be more than the marketing term. It's sad that the cultural part of this practice is greatly skimmed or filtered for making the instant answers. It's kind of losing the most delicious part of this practice, and it's quite sad for that. But, well, I am here for that. It might be too late, but I'll do everything I can to make it make it alive. Not to make it alive, to pass it down. That's the whole purpose of this live streaming, and also my activities channel, Instagram, YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, website, workshop. Everything I do is going to be connected to that. So it is, I mean, most of this audience, most of the people who are watching this live streaming is here for the answers or informations, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I hope that I can communicate something, not even above, something a little bit along with the answers. There's not that much the answers per se. There's no definitive answers or even the dualism, judgment, or values. It is outside of that. And it is my goal to introduce what is that outside of. Outside of the Western perspective. Therefore, I keep saying that it is probably very difficult to completely understand Sashiko without understanding the Japanese language. Again, you don't need to, there's no need for the Japanese language to practice to enjoy Sashiko at all. You can get a lot of information in English, but please be careful that what you're learning, what you may be learning, what you are going to learn, if you only get the information from the in English, that information can be somebody's translation or somebody's interpretation. So there's another filter there, and I want to be mindful about it too. あら、しのぶさんありがとうございます。Thank you so much for coming. ありがとうございます。キャット？猫っすか？それ犬？猫？What did I write today? Oh, Sashiko is the number of making. So, yes. So, the most frequent question I receive is how to stitch, how to make stitches even. There was a question today, how to transfer the papers, how to transfer the patterns. For me, how to transfer the pattern to the fabric or how to prepare the pattern on the fabric is not really a part of Sashiko. It doesn't have to be Sashiko. I mean, it requires a lot of sewing project requires that process, and it's not, it's not exclusive things for the Sashiko. So I don't really teach how to do that in my workshop because that's not the core of Sashiko. And it is understandable that we are all kind of interested in how to. One of the common questions is how to make even stitches. I do not have that answer, to be honest, because as long as one tries to make even stitches, it does not happen. It's really philosophical, and it's some people might not be happy about it, but it's not about, Sashiko is not about making even stitches by willpower or technique. It's not a wrong to do it, but at the same time, it does not explain the whole picture. And unfortunately, in today's Sashiko, it is very much westernized for that, to have the, like as if having an even stitch is the skill, or even the sort of the master skill to have in Sashiko. It's really not that. But that's based on the value that that's a very that concept, how to, and then making the even stitches as the right answer is the already biased based on the value of Western culture. That's really not the whole picture that I'd like to share. Just joining in, good to be here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yep, for those who are here for the first time, or for those who are watching this as an archive, Sashiko is about stitching. It is the form of stitching, but it's not about making even stitches. You will get even stitches as a result, but it's not about making even stitches. For that, because I really do not worry. It's not like I don't care. I do not worry about even stitches. It's not even about embracing the imperfection or imperfect stitches. I do not know any artisans who embraced their stitches. They looked very even, but none of them were happy with that. They kept saying that they have a space, they have a room to grow. To be honest, it's too humble. But at the same time, that too humble, the status of too humble is very much Japanese. And so don't embrace the imperfection. Try your best to make, try not to make even stitches. Then you can make even stitches as the result of not getting satisfied with that. Oh my. I hope it makes sense. It's really difficult to explain, especially in English. The more I teach in English, the more I realize how different it is between the Japanese culture and the American culture. When we compare the Japanese people and American people today, there aren't that much difference. We are the same people. However, when we talk about something kind of deeper down, cultural, traditional, or even how we each develop the culture, the difference is quite significant. And I think it's supposed to be like that. And it's probably not that important to pass it down, because it's not necessary information. It's really not mandatory to have to survive through this world. So if I would not do the Sashiko at all, I wouldn't be needing that information, knowledge. Like if I'm working for the financial sector, I wouldn't need this very spiritual idea of Sashiko, because that is gonna ruin my career. You don't want to have a financial advisor who keeps saying there's no answers. You need answers from the financial advisor. For that, this is very unnecessary skill. However, what we try to do right now is the Japanese cultural practice, Sashiko, as the result. Somebody has to talk about those, I don't want to say ancient because it's not that old, but 50 years, 100 years, can be 150 years old information. It's not something extraordinary. It's very ordinary Japanese understanding of how the world worked, past tense. It's really not extraordinary. It's just something very ordinary. Therefore, it has to have a lot of explanations, because we do have a different ordinary, and then if we have when we have a different ordinary, we have different expectations. So I don't know how long it's gonna take for me to do that, but as long as I keep sharing Sashiko, I gotta keep doing it. Where did I put it? some people say like, some people might say that they don't care about those things. Like they want to just enjoy stitching. That makes sense. But then my following up question is, why do they call Sashiko then? It's not that I don't want them to call it. I just don't understand why they have to use word that has a deeply related to the cultural practice. I probably share this story a lot, but that was 3 years ago probably, when I first encountered the concept of cultural appropriation. I did not know this idea until 2019. And when I encountered that expression or idea, I kind of asked out of my very pure curiosity, why do you call it Sashiko? Like, why? Like, literally, why do you call it? It's not like accusation many people took. That was my accusation that why do you call it Sashiko became in their mind that me saying don't use that word. I wasn't trying to accuse anybody. I was not trying to blame anybody. I just wanted to know why do they call this stitching Sashiko, which lead today to that today's question, 2022's question, is what makes your stitching Sashiko? Like, what is Sashiko for you? I'm not gonna go deeper there, but 2019, when I asked the question for the first time, why do you call it Sashiko? There was one guy replied to me saying that because it sells well. If I put the name Sashiko on my product page, it sells well. It gets more page views, it gets more attention. And I wasn't even sad about it. I was not even upset. I was not frustrated, because that makes sense. There's a straight line. There's a word Sashiko. Many people are interested in that right now. So if I put that word in my product, it's gonna get a more page view. That's a very simple logic, and I like it. I liked it. I don't like how it was organized, how it was placed, but that explanation made a lot of sense. And I asked him to try to learn the history of story behind it, and he said that he didn't know about it much, so he will study, he will learn about it. So if the goal is to just sell or to get attention, I don't really worry about it too much. That's gonna lead to the question about the Nike shoes. There was a Sashiko shoes, Sashiko sneakers from Nike, the brand, and I received quite many worrying emails how horrible it is. I did not consider it horrible because they knew that that would sell well. They do not change the culture of Sashiko by doing so. So what I worried about, what I feared, what I am feared in the most, what feared me the most is those who think they know about Sashiko and then changing it, either innocently or even worse, intentionally. That's the scary part of this. The Nike or those people who think that the Sashiko is gonna sell well, so it's the marketing term. If they say like that, they are not going to change the culture that much. I mean, it's not gonna be the positive effect probably, but I'm not really worried about that. But what I'm worried about is those who think they know about Sashiko. As the result, they will filter some of the important essence of Sashiko in their practice because they have justice. They do think they do believe that they know Sashiko, which means that that's their justice that they know Sashiko, right? And when we have justice, even me, we can be pretty cruel. So that's something worry a lot. And I don't think anybody can say that they know Sashiko enough, because I don't know the whole picture of Sashiko well. I know what I'm doing. I know what kind of Sashiko I practice, and I can, speak on behalf of my Sashiko for the 100%. But it does not mean that I can talk about the other Sashiko on their behalf. It's too much, too simplified. And I'm Japanese and been doing this for a long time, yet I do not think I can, I'm not qualified to do it. So I think that, if the person is not Japanese or even doesn't speak Japanese, it might be, teaching, not the, I keep saying, like, if you want to just practice, if you want to just enjoy Sashiko stitching, don't worry about the language, don't worry about the culture. Please acknowledge that there's stories behind it, but that's about it. Don't worry about it too much. But if you have teachers who think they know what Sashiko is very well, yet does not speak Japanese or does not might keep offering the answers, then that might be a little bit problematic. We don't know the answers. There's one famous author who is now in the PhD program to research the etymology about Sashiko and Boro, so we will wait for her result. But until then, there's no such a thing to answer at this moment. Even after her PhD program, I don't think there's going to be the answer. We will have a lot of stories, but that's not the answer we can define. See, that's how that's how horrible to manage it is. I wish I have the answer for you to have from my voice. Like, if I could give you the answer here, it's easy to follow. But I don't. And that's how it is. And that's probably more difficult, more confusing, more time-consuming to learn what it is. Of course, everybody feel better. It's easier to have the simple, easy answer. What is Sashiko? And then the answer is like, in one sentence or even one paragraph. It's very easy. We can be all masters in the understanding. But unfortunately, we don't have that. So we gotta keep stitching. That's what I can offer. We're gonna keep stitching, and then one day you and I can be on the same page, on the same expectation, same value. Then we can probably share more stories each other. 30 minutes of mumbling. I'm getting better at mumbling, I guess. But I don't think I say anything new in the live streaming because my brain is not working quite well. It's at night. Thursday night is not the best time for me to think. And I'm stitching and also, tired. So it's good time for me to relax and then focus on stitching. So the live streaming is more like a mumbling, brainstorming what I would like to write or what I have wrote in the past week or next week while making stitches. So I don't want to expect too much out of this live streaming, but sometimes there is the videos of non-edited. This is a raw materials of learning Sashiko. And it's just a time together. Unless there's any request. Yeah, Thursday night. Why did I put it Thursday night? Probably. I may think about it later a little bit. Is there any weekday that it's good for you? Thursday night is a little bit. I will, as of now, I will keep doing this on Thursday, but I am quite tired on Thursday after a whole week, so may not be the best time to do the live streaming. And if you have any good weekdays to make a good time for that, I will take that into consideration or ideas. I still get the gist of the mumbling. That's good. That's good. Thank you. So yeah, my mumbling is actually the repetition. I repeat the same thing. Sorry, I am repeating the stories I wrote in the previous week, or the things I will write again next week. When I write something new, I really need time. I have to focus on that. I have to do brainstorming. I have to be careful in writing. I have to, put the word in a way that it does not create unnecessary misunderstanding. So I think it's gonna take some time, and it takes a lot of concentration. So the live streaming is more like a review of everything I have thought, and I will write in the future. Like not the far future, the very close future. Yeah, there's a lot of misunderstanding of Sashiko. Unfortunately, some people say it's slow stitching. It is slow stitching. Don't get me wrong. Slow stitching is a true word, but it does not have to be slow. Stitching itself does not have to be slow. That doesn't explain. Thursday nights are perfect. I wait a week for this little gathering. That's really nice to say. Thank you. Well, in that case, I will keep the Thursday night then. And that's exactly what I want to. That's exactly what I want to make. Every week, we have a place to stitch together while listening somebody's mumbling like this. So that sounds fantastic. And I think that's what Sashiko was. Very, very in original form. I mean, not one person mumbling, but, chatting. And if somebody's missing on that day, we worry about her or him not coming to the gathering. And that's the place to be. That's the place I want to create. You don't need a specific teacher for that too. Like workshop is great. Sashiko class is great. And the same times when we make those class or even gathering for that matter, we tend to have the hierarchy. And there's nothing wrong with the hierarchy. There's, in order to keep the orderly, in order to keep the order, we have to, of course, have the hierarchy. But then it loses the point of gathering for that. So no better or worse, no superior or inferior, no, just nothing. Just be there, be here. Laurie, thank you so much. The live Thursdays feel real good to sit and stitch together. That's really good. Thank you. Any night is good for me. To be honest, for me, any night is good for me too. Any night, either I will be tired regardless. I will be tired regardless, so I don't know if you understand this, but I don't know if I can get any agreement, not empathy. How do you call that? So I have many of my friends. I live in a quite rich area. Sorry, I live in the sort of the standard residential area in the rich town, wealthy town. There's a university close to, like, private university close to us, and there's a hospital, big hospital close to us. So there are a lot of PhD people, like doctors, professors, and therefore they are, my daughter's friends' parents, or even our friends are doctors and PhDs, medical doctors and PhDs. So they're quite wealthy in comparison to, the average or even median income. And well, they're very busy. They're very busy every day. So what they do is to outsource the daily things to, to the services, cleaning, cooking. I don't know if they outsource cooking, but cleaning, especially before the COVID, cleaning. I keep saying cleaning, yard work. What else? And pretty much everything they try to outsource it. And I understand, like, if I make that much money, probably it's more economically justifiable or smart to hire somebody, outsource some of the ordinary work, like house chore, to the outside of the house, somebody else. It didn't make sense. And sometimes my wife suggests that since I am getting more work, she is asking if it's reasonable, if understandable, if we hire somebody, if we outsource our services to the outside, cleaning, gardening, stuff like that. I cannot do that. I have to do it myself. Like, I have to mow the lawn by myself. I cannot let somebody cook our meal. I don't even like going out. I have to do that with my hands. And it's crazy. I know it does not make any sense. But look, it does not make sense from logical part, but it's more like a brainwashed feeling. As the result, I get tired because I clean, I cook, I do all the housework. It's not that good cleaning, by the way, so, my family might not be happy about it. But it's very strange. Good neighborhood. Here they called it a good neighborhood. Good. Michigan, right? I was in the Michigan, and I don't remember that because I was in the student ghetto, I guess. Yep, I was in the student ghetto, pretty much drinking every night, so good time. I kind of miss Michigan, though. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take it back. I miss my college time. So I don't know if it's Michigan, but it was in Michigan for sure. So I miss that. Do I miss Michigan? Probably yes. I guess so. I'm in Pennsylvania, so it's pretty close to Michigan, I guess. It's not that different. Like, in comparison to Florida or Texas, it's still sort of northern part of the US. Yeah, since I have to I think I'm the control freak. Control freak is one way to explain that, but for some reason I think I believe some of the power by doing by hand, and it's so not making sense at all. It does not make sense at all, but it's so weird. But it's important for me too. My wife understands, so it's all good, but it's interesting. Well, that's the reason I'm tired. Was that in Ann Arbor? I wish I was. Well, I tried. I tried to get into the U of M, but I was not smart enough. I could not get that score, so instead I went to the party school, so-called Western Michigan. I hope nobody. Well, Western Michigan became completely different school after I graduated. They invested a lot of money, and I think the tuition becomes 4 times more expensive than I used to pay, probably 3 times. Anyway, it became really good school, but when I was in school, it was a good, well-known party school, I guess. At least that's what students were talking about. And that's how I got my English, so I'm perfectly fine with that. Did I stitch in college? Not really. Only when I was drunk. But I was drunk every night, so. But I did not do it for fun. Sashiko was not something for fun, so I wasn't really doing it. What did I study in college? Drinking is good major. Unfortunately, I majored in business, which means the human networking. But degree-wise, it's business. The memory-wise, it's drinking. I do remember the textbook I read, but I don't think I remember the content. So, but again, that made me be able to speak English, so that's a good thing, I think. I'm still super new to Sashiko, but have watched many of your videos explaining the culture behind it, but watching you stitch has helped me learn. Thank you. That's the whole purpose of this live streaming in this channel. I think, yeah, watching me stitching can make a lot of sense. Sometimes can make a lot of sense. And some people wondered, how can you stitch this much? How can you stitch these patterns on the denim everywhere? All of the denim. And they say it's impossible to do it. But if you watch me stitching like this, it's not impossible at all. You can do it over a few weekends if I have enough time for that. So, and I'm not that special. I am sharing this one, and many people say that it's a skill. It's the masterful skill. It's not. Anybody can do it. So, it's so sad to see. This is a kind of very honest saying, so if you don't like me complaining, please don't listen to that. But it's so sad that teachers are teaching how to make one stitches so perfectly, so slowly. It's really not the core of Sashiko. It's missing the most delicious part of the Sashiko. I feel like I'm watching them eating pizza without the cheese. So, and I don't want them to call that pizza. It's not wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Just it's so strange, and I'm gonna be very sad. It's very sad if they think that's the Sashiko's whole picture because it's not. So like copy it. If you can copy it, please copy it. I think many people are copying right now because I did not see many people stitching like me few years ago, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I have not really seen that, but there are many people who are now stitching like this. So there were people who said that there are people who say that they were my friends who advised me to not to do this because I will lose my asset, but it's not what I care the most. I just wanted to enjoy that more. Shelly, you might not only you are an artist, but you have a business. Don't come out quite right. You are an artist and business person. That's a very good point. I do not consider myself as an artist. And you may probably say why, and I have been trying to explain that why. And I think I have not done a good job yet. I have been trying, but I do not consider myself as the artist, an artist. But I humbly accept. I humbly accept somebody calling me artist. At the same time, since I was the business person before, I do not consider myself as the business person per se. I can be better business person if I only focus on the business. I'm doing a horrible job if my goal is to make a business profitable. Because I'm purposefully doing the opposite of what I should be doing right now. So it's not a non-profit organization. It's for profit. So yes, it is for the business and I have to make ends meet. But more like, it's not an artist 100%, it's not a business person 100%, and it's not gonna be 100% even if I add the artist and business person. There's somebody else in between, and that's the somebody I wanna focus on being. That's a very artist. I just don't wanna lose it. I don't want it to be lost. Something that my family, my people, my artisans cultivated for a long time. I don't want it to be lost by somebody's profit, somebody's convenience. So it's like a mission for that matter. Oh, I'm sorry. I was wondering myself. のんさん、こんにちは。よろしくお願いします。Can you tell us what the fabric it is? Looks like fairly easy to stitch through. My denim on jeans is tougher to stitch through. Well, this is actually denim. It is denim fabric, so it is quite difficult to stitch. It is difficult to stitch when you try to stitch. It's really going to be philosophical, but the fabric is not that important in Sashiko stitching. Of course, there are good fabric for Sashiko stitching and difficult fabric for Sashiko, but usually the denim or cotton fabric, the canvas is a little different story, but the raw denim is a different story. But well-used denim are not that difficult to stitch. And if you find it difficult to stitch through, that's probably because you're not using the thimble in the way we are supposed to use it. Some people say that I feel like my hands are so tired. How can I stitches? How can I keep stitching in healthy manner so that I can keep stitching? We can keep stitching. Well, don't use hand. Don't use don't use fingers. If one keeps using the fingers, then it's gonna be very much painful or difficult to keep stitching. So I'm not using fingers per se. It's not the work by fingers. I always wondered how people could party all night and still go to school. You must have extra good brain cells. I enjoy watching you stitch. Where do you buy one of those rings to protect your hand? The symbol is on my website, upcyclestitches.com, upcyclestitches.com. Should be the link might be here somewhere, but it's the core one. It's the core of Sashiko. The symbol is the core of Sashiko. And the question, how people could party all night? Well, I was young and I was not eating, so I think it was kind of high all the time. Like I was I was in school in early 2000, so I hope somebody understands this. But if I had a $5 for that day, I had to wonder either I should eat lunch or get a pack of cigarette, and of course I chose pack of cigarette. So night, do I go to the bar of vodka or dinner? And of course I went for the drinks. So that's how we. But yeah, that's a very good question. I don't think I can do it anymore, but I could do it for some reason. Yes, and more important for me to carry the tradition. It is true, but at the same time, it's not the tradition I would like to pass down so much. It's like the people's story. It is ongoing. It's just not the translated, and it's so unfair. I believe that there are more people with my messages in Japan without the power or even willingness to speak up because of their other Japanese mindset. In order to speak up, in order to be heard in this world, we have to have several things: the language, the IT skills like social medias, and also the time. I am so fortunate and I'm so privileged for that I don't have to worry about tomorrow's bread. I have to, of course, make my ends meet. At the same time, I don't have to provide a family. As long as I can make myself sort of full, I'm okay because I have my wife who can support. So I do have enough time for doing that. And I have a voice because I could, spend some time in the US for studying. And I'm fairly young for those as the Sashiko stitchers. So my voice are relatively easier to be heard. But there are many Japanese people who have a voice but who do not have the vehicle to speak up. And it's not about good or bad. It's just the voices, and it's not even right or wrong. I just wanted to be heard or at least left behind somehow. So it's really not the tradition, but it's just they're ordinary. They have an ordinary Sashiko, and I wanted to be heard. not ignored. And unfortunately, by focusing on one type of Sashiko as the answer, the other Sashiko is going to be wiped out. And who decides the one Sashiko, and who decide what kind of Sashiko is going to be chosen and what the other Sashiko is going to be filtered? If that's done by non-Japanese without mindful consideration, that's very unfair. In my understanding, it's very unfair. I don't know any Japanese who actually insist the right Sashiko besides few that I do not like. Well, they're very close to me, so I don't want to really know. There are some people like that too, but so it's not like tradition. It's somebody's very ordinary voice. What kind of cheese do you put on your pizza? Provolone? Mozzarella cheese? What is your favorite cheese to put on the pizza? Cheddar might be a little bit of tricky, but it's not wrong, right? So if we decided that only mozzarella cheese is for the pizza and everything else is not pizza, then how about the pizza with different kind of the cheese? Are they wrong? Or are they gonna be left behind in the history of pizza? Because those who decided the mozzarella is great? Isn't it a little unfair? That's where I'm at. I mean, I shouldn't be talking about pizza so much because that's not my culture, but that's a good analogy, I guess, for what I'm trying to do. I kind of compromise if they talk about the cheese, though. The horrible thing, the most scary thing is that they are kind of eating pizza without the cheese. So, like, what is that? I mean, there's nothing wrong with eating the bread stick with the tomato sauce, and probably, some Italian people advise me that there are pizza without the cheese. So I'm not really talking about those details. I'm not talking about culture. It's analogy, so I'm not talking about actual pizza. But for me, the most delicious part of the pizza is that greasy cheese, and I don't want you to miss that. But yeah. And unfortunately, the Sashiko today is missing the most delicious part. I'm sorry, the Sashiko introduced in English more available than mine. If you Google Sashiko, you can get a lot of information besides my information. And I don't think those are explaining. Not only they're not explaining, some of them are saying completely opposite of the expectation. So I keep saying, like, but please don't say embrace the imperfection. That's opposite. Like, imperfection is a very much important part of Sashiko. We cannot make it perfect. We cannot make it perfect because we're doing it hand, right? Like this is not gonna be perfect because we're doing it hand. But none of my artisans embrace the imperfection because that's not how we think. We try, like, embracing means that we are celebrating the imperfection, right? Imperfection is the result, it's outcome. It's not something we aim at. And once we aim at it, it's going to be a completely different practice. So please keep trying to be as perfect as you can, but we cannot be perfect because we're human. Then, yet, we try to look for the way to be perfect. So we never embrace the imperfection for that matter. That's one really big sad thing about it. Oops. Wow, I've been mumbling for 1 hour. Thank you so much for listening. I will finish stitching after this thread, unless there is any other comments. I will do this live streaming every Thursday night. I will usually bring more productive topic, but if there's any questions, any request for me to talk about, please let me know. Please leave the comment if you're watching this as the archive. But my goal is to share the past down what Sashiko is, the Sashiko we have been practicing, and that includes some of the people's voice that they do not wish to speak up, yet they do have ability. They do. The fact that they do not want to speak up do not mean that they do not care about it. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. The fact that they do not want to speak up is not equal to that they do not care about it. They care about it. As the result, they don't speak up about it. It's a very Japanese, I guess. But again, they do have a voice, but they decided to not to speak up because they have something else that they want to protect. That's why it's so difficult. I have a very nice website. Thank you. I do not and did not have the budget to outsource somebody, so I made it by myself. And as the result, it might have some. It's secured by the WordPress, not app. What is it? Plugin. So it should be safe. It's very safe, but there might be some temporal. Well, it's good. I upgraded the server, so it has been great. But if you find any errors, please accept my apologies in advance. And I have not made any updated for a long time. I was busy I have been busy until last week. So wait, was I in QuiltCon last week? No, 2 weeks ago. Wow, it's been 2 weeks since. Time flies. Oh my. I'm losing my voice. Wow. Wow, it's gonna. Yeah, I'm really shocked how fast the time goes. What was I doing last week? Like literally, what was I doing this week? Monday to Friday. I made a pasta sauce. Yes, I did it. It's always good to kind of remember what we ate. I made a pasta sauce today. How about yesterday? Oh, I went to shopping as well, yes. Is it hard to stitch the round pattern? No, it's not hard. It's just the... it's not. It's just not my preference. But I think the driving analogy is good. So the question is it difficult to drive the curvy road? The answer is kind of yes and no. If you get used to driving, this does not really matter if it's curved or straight, right? So it's not the matter of easy or not easy, difficult. It's just the road with the curve or straight. However, if you have to check the comment while driving, and you have to talk, if you have to do the live streaming while checking the comment and in driving, don't do that. But if you imagine that if you have to do the live streaming and then keep checking the comment on the screen, probably straight road is easier than the curved road. And please don't do it. Please don't drive and live streaming and check the comment. But that's probably an analogy, and that's the reason I keep stitching this pattern all the time on the live streaming. I do have a different patterns. I just easier to stitch without having the accident. I know it's not fun, but the fun part is not me stitching, so yeah, it's okay to say that, I guess. And I guess, you know, having a lot of result in this 1 hour is also sort of refreshing. I will go back to the just a second. Okay, I will show. Hi, I have watched a few of your videos, but not also. I'm not sure if you have addressed my question before. I wonder if you could speak about the loops you leave at corners. What is useful? Yeah, this is a very common questions which I have heard, which I have not heard recently. I used to have this question pretty much every single live streaming. Go to my website Upcycle Stitches, and there's a search. I'm talking about the loops on this. Just a second, okay. So there's a website, upcyclestitches.com. It's my website, and then there's a search box, and then just type while loop. I made videos, I made articles to answer that question. So just go to Upcycle Stitches and then type while loop, and you will get the answers. And what is the final use of this project? This is gonna be the curtain, sort of the curtain, or even like the cloth to cover the under shelf of my sort of the room for Sashiko. I'm trying to clean, I'm trying to reorganize the my room so that I can share a little more project later on, and that's gonna be the cover of that. So it's single layer. It's single layer, and well, I might put the back. I may cover it up. I might put lining later on, but it's quite long. I'll show you now. It's quite long. You ready? So it's probably 3 meters or so. And I do have 2 lines here and here, so yeah. So dusty. We make some clothing, we make some jackets, but sometimes I really don't have the purpose when I stitch. I mean, this has a purpose, but I do have I put the project so-called 100-meter Asanoho pattern. I am stitching a collection of 100 meters of the same patterns. So 100 meters, I know, But if I make, it's not that difficult to make 1 meter of fastener stitching because this is already 3 meters, right? And this is already more than 3 meters. So, and I have been doing this much in probably 8 hours, 7 or 8 hours. I do this only in the live streaming, so you can pretty much watch all of the process if you want to. It's not that, doesn't take much time. It shouldn't take that much time. It's the Japanese, it's the practice. It's the ordinary practice that the many people practice. So they shouldn't take more than that time. Whew. So yes, I will be back on next Thursday. I will probably bring some topic. I believe I answered all the questions, and if you're watching this as the archive, please leave the comments so I can cover it. I can cover that in the next live streaming. But don't ask me the question like how to stitch or stuff like that, because it is not my intention to make the workshop. Yes. Alright, so I hope you have a good Friday and weekend. Keep stitching, and I will see you next Thursday night. Alright, bye bye.